Let's start with the basics. St. John Chrysostom was born in the year around 349 in Antioch, which is now known as modern-day Turkey. At the time, Antioch was one of the most important cities in the Roman Empire.
His family was well off, but his father passed away when John was young. His mother, Anthusa, raised him and gave him a great education. John studied philosophy, rhetorics, and law. He was a brilliant speaker and could have become a famous lawyer, but he felt called to a religious life instead.
In his early 20s, John started studying Christianity deeply and eventually became a monk. This life was intense. He lived in the wilderness, fasting and praying almost every day. And on top of that, he was also studying the Bible. This period helped him develop discipline and spiritual knowledge that shaped his work.
He became a priest in 386 and quickly became famous for his sermons. In 398, he was made the Archbishop of Constantinople, one of the most powerful positions in the church at the time. But his life wasn't all smooth sailing. We'll get to that next.
One question people often ask was whether John was always Christian. The short answer is yes, but it is important to understand the context of his time.
When John was born, Christianity was becoming more accepted in the Roman Empire, but it wasn't the dominant religion yet. His mother was Christian, and she most likely had a huge influence on his faith.
However, John's education wasn't only about religion. He studied under a famous pagan teacher named Livius, who was inspired by John's skills, and he even said he would grow up to be one of his best students if Christians haven't stolen him. So, while John grew up in a Christian household, he also had exposure to non-Christian ideas and philosophers as well. Now, let's talk about why St. John Chrysostom was such a big deal. First, his sermons are legendary. He spoke out against greed, corruption, and injustice, even when it got him in trouble with very powerful people.
John also reformed the church in Constantinople. He cut back on the lavish lifestyles of some clergy and used church resources to help out the poor and the sick. These reforms made him popular with ordinary people, but not with the wealthy and powerful.
Unfortunately, his boldness got him in trouble. He criticized Empress Eudoxia for her extravagant lifestyle, and she had him exiled twice. He died in the year 407 from exile, but his teachings lived on.
His writings are still studied today, especially his sermons and commentaries on the Bible. His ideas about social justice and caring for the poor continues to inspire both religious and non-religious people.
So you're probably wondering where the interview portion of this is. Well, we've tried many options. I tried to message the priests around our area to ask if they could respond. Unfortunately, only one responded, but it was actually the Archbishop. Ronald Charles Borzel, an executive assistant to the Archbishop, emailed us back and said to check out a couple of talks about St. John Chrysostom that St. Benedict XVI gave in 2007. I sent it to Marine, and we worked together to see what it says.
So, because our first plan failed, I decided to interview one of my priests at my local church. This is how it went. I headed to the church, and when I arrived, I waited for the priest to come out of the church. After the priest came out, I headed towards him and asked him questions about St. John Chrysostom. In this very loud and short video, he told me a little history about St. John Chrysostom. This was good, as he had some knowledge about him. I asked him if I could interview him, and unfortunately, he had to do confessions after. So, we didn't have someone to interview. I texted Dylan and told him. When I thought all hope was lost, I remembered a crucial note that I completely forgot. Then I thought, what hypothetical person would I interview? Then I thought of the most obvious religious figure, God. But I pondered, and a thought, probably from God himself, came into my mind. I searched up if God could talk to us through our thoughts, and lo and behold, he could. The person I decided to interview is God, the Creator himself. Thank you, God, for taking the time to speak with us today. St. John Chrysostom was often regarded as a transformative figure in Christian history. How would you describe this lasting impact on faith practices today?
St. John Chrysostom left a timeless legacy. His teachings emphasized that true faith is rooted in compassion and justice. He reminded people that wealth and resources are not personal possessions, but belong to the community. His call to care for the poor resonates deeply today.
What specific teachings of his do you think are still shaping contemporary Christianity?
John Chrysostom's focus on charity and humility is central. He preached that wealth carries a responsibility. What you have is not just for yourself, but for the community. For example, he once said that withholding wealth from the poor is akin to theft. This belief is reflected today in the church's outreach programs, like food banks and shelters. Many churches now see their mission as providing for those in need, a direct echo of John's call to care for the less fortunate.
How do his ideas extend beyond the church's eternal practices?
His teachings on economic justice and moral leadership influence broader conversations about ethics and public responsibility. When Chrysostom insisted on opening church buildings for hospitals or helping widows and orphans, he set a precedent for faith-based institutions to lead by example in serving society. Today, this legacy is evident in faith-driven healthcare and charitable organizations worldwide.
Would you also say that his influence extends beyond Christianity?
Certainly, his insistence on seeing the divine in every human being shapes ethical perspectives globally. Whether through Christian social teachings or secular humanitarian efforts, Chrysostom's emphasis on kindness, justice, and humility challenges people across cultures to prioritize the common good over personal gain.
That's incredibly inspiring. Before we conclude, is there one message from St. John Chrysostom's life you think is particularly relevant today?
Yes, his belief that true worship is inseparable from how you treat others. He often said that the poor and needy are Christ's body. In a time of growing disparities and global challenges, his reminder to act with love and generosity is a call to action for all humanity.
Thank you for sharing your thoughts. God, it has been enlightening to see how St. John Chrysostom's legacy continues to guide us today.
You are most welcome. Remember, the greatest commandment is to love one another.
Well, that's all about St. John Chrysostom. Here is our bibliography, and thank you for watching.